We're joined by a mum who was held in Dubai for calling her ex-husband's new wife a horse on Facebook, and she says that she was driven to the brink of suicide by what happened. Laleh Sharahvesh feared she would never see her daughter again as she was detained for 33 days for comments she posted online 3 years ago. It's believed that she is the first British citizen to be convicted for a post made outside the country under Dubai's strict cybercrime laws. Laleh is now back in the UK after being ordered to pay a £625 fine for her release. She joins me this morning alongside with her 14-year-old daughter, Paris. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining me. Let me start with you, Laleh, if I may. It's been over a month since you travelled out to Dubai with Paris. You were going there to pay your respects after your former husband died suddenly from a heart attack. Could you tell us what happened when you landed at the airport?
We landed at 8 p.m. We were going through passport control. I remember it vividly. I handed my daughter's passport in first to the person behind the counter. They returned it to me, and then I gave my passport, and I noticed that the lady kept looking at my passport and then looking at me, and she called someone else to come to the desk with her. And within minutes, we were asked to follow this gentleman away from passport control into another area of the airport. I still didn't know what was going on, so that's how it really happened. And from an office that he took us to, we were then taken to what I believe was the immigration police at the airport.
And then what happened?
And then, of course, by then I was getting very concerned because I had been asking, what was going on, why we were there.
Of course.
And there was nothing forthcoming. And I got very emotional. And with regards to timings, I honestly can't remember because everything was just happening in such a surreal way. It was almost like I was there, but I just didn't believe that I was in that situation. And at one point, one of the officers turned around and said that you're here because of a charge against you on Facebook.
And did you have any idea what he was talking about at that point?
No, because I still, it was still very much disbelief what was happening. We literally just arrived. We were only going to be in Dubai for 5 days. We were there to pay our respects to Pedro, and everything else that followed was just unbelievable. I mean, the first thing that the officer did ask me was whether I knew Sam Hamadi. I mean, those were his first words to me. And I replied honestly saying, no, I don't know her, but I do know of her. And then...
Sorry, just to be clear, that is...
Pedro's wife.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah.
Which is where the insults were about that you had written.
Well, actually, sorry, if I may answer you, it was a Facebook post made in 2016, made in the UK. It was made on my Facebook page, and it was directed at Pedro. It was directed, and I'm really sorry to say that. But it was directed at him, so yes.
And did you at this point when they were talking about anything on Facebook, were you racking your brains to think, what on earth could this be about?
Yes, because it was so many years ago, and it was, it was forgotten, and it honestly took me, I don't know how long to realise what was actually going on, and all that was going through my mind was pure disbelief, really, at that point.
Yes. Yeah. And as you say, those posts that you did put on Facebook, it was just after you'd seen a photo of your ex getting married to his new wife. Is that correct?
It was 3 days after what was to be our wedding anniversary. I was distraught. I was very upset. I was depressed. There were a lot of emotions going on. And so that was the reasoning behind it.
And if I may, just to quote, because people may not have read the story,
yes.
you wrote, "I hope you go underground, you idiot, damn you. You left me for this horse, you married a horse,
yes.
you idiot." And as you say, you were on the way to attend his funeral.
Yes.
And it was actually, you were going to be face to face with the woman who you then learn has reported you
Yes.
for those comments.
Yes. So if I may correct you,
Please, yeah.
we were going to see him at the cemetery because we weren't welcome at the funeral.
Right.
So
you wouldn't have come face to face necessarily with.
No, I wouldn't have. But but we were there to pay our respects, both for Paris, which was ultimately very, very important for her to do, and of course for me as well, considering the number of years that that I had known Pedro for, and we'd been married. So, yes.
So Paris, just to bring you in at this point, your mum's being held. You're not that clear why, and then what happened with you, because you were held for several hours. How many hours were you held?
4 hours,
4 hours.
Until 12 in the evening, if not a little bit past then. But the police, they just kept on telling my mum to ring someone to try and take me away, because I believe the law is there that children are not allowed to go inside of police cars, and they kept ushering her to Jebel Ali police station to make a statement, and I couldn't come with her. So they did everything in their favour, yelling at us for hours on end, telling my mum that she should stop crying and that someone had to come and take me away.
And what did you do with Paris? What did you make the decision to do?
She was with me. I mean, we'd just arrived in a completely unexpected situation. Of course, I wasn't going to be separated with her. There was no question that would happen.
No, and you must have been terrified at this point.
I was, but at the same time, I could tell from Paris's body language that she was getting extremely upset and panicky, and I had to be very careful for her not to frighten her even more than she was. I just insisted with the police that I had nobody to call to come and get Paris, and that she was staying with me, and that was it.
But you then did have to make the decision to send Paris home.
This was after. So we left the police station sort of after midnight that evening, when they actually told me that they were going to keep my passport, that I was on a travel ban.
And at this point, sorry, just to say, had it been explained to you what the charges were by this point when you were taken to the police station?
They basically just said that it was a Facebook post.
They just kept saying that?
I think they mentioned it really once, and then, the shifts changed and within the police station. So everything was really a blur, and it was getting very late. Paris was extremely tired, and I just wanted to leave that police station. I couldn't actually, I don't even know if I knew in reality what was happening or what was to follow in the next days. But the decision to send Paris home was after the 12 hours that we spent in another police station.
So, Paris, you went home, you took a flight
I
home?
did.
Okay, and I mean, how were you feeling leaving your mum?
I really didn't want to. It was a really horrible decision that she had to make, and we were both very reluctant to part, but I guess it was inevitable because I had school, I had very important exams, and I guess it was just harder if both of us were there at the same time in some senses.
So, and you went home, and were you met by a family member?
I was.
Okay, and what's then going on with you in Dubai at this point? Are you then held in the airport?
So no, because they held my passport. They said that I was on a travel ban, and they told me that I needed to go to another police station to make my statement. So that's what happened. And obviously, that's what I did. And then from that moment on, that was the day when Paris and I spent 12 hours at the police station, and I realised the severity of what was actually happening to me, facing prison in the Middle East. It's a daunting experience. I mean, I can't even put it into words. And I'm trying to kind of speed things on. Going forward from that, the police did ask Sam Hamadi 5 times to drop the case. It would have been as simple as that, to drop the case, but she refused. Yeah, she refused.
And where were you once this initial part was over? Where were you held, or where did you go once you were on the travel ban, remaining in Dubai on your own?
I was in Dubai. I was in a hotel in Dubai. I was kind of completely isolated from everything and everyone because the situation was so sensitive. And it was...
I know this is very difficult for you to
Yeah,
recall. Do you want to take a moment?
No, I'm fine. I'm just trying to kind of not get emotional, but it's, it was a very, very overwhelming.
Paris, can I talk to you for a moment? I know you're
Yes.
supporting your mum there. Take a minute. I'm so sorry how difficult this is to talk about, and we do appreciate you coming here to talk about it, because of course there's a whole campaign around detained in Dubai, and I know you want to talk about
I do.
what actually happened, because people
I
are
do.
there
It's-
still in hell.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I have to emphasise that Radha Sterling from Detained in Dubai, I owe her so much. And what I have to say is that obviously with the way that things were progressing, there came a time where, because she had refused to drop the case, and she basically wanted to see me jailed, my family made the decision to go public. And it was basically from the time that Radha Sterling...
Just to say, that's from the detained
From the
Dubai,
yes, Radha Sterling
group
from
campaign group.
Detained in Dubai group, yes. From the moment that she went to the press, literally in a matter of days, everything changed. Everything changed. And there was almost an international media storm about the case. And because then sort of I'm moving along really fast, because what had happened also was that things kept changing on a daily basis. I had that last court hearing where the judge made his, delayed the case. And then within a matter of hours, everything changed, and he ordered that my passport be returned to me in the same day.
How many days were you out there? On your own?
33 days.
And I mean, that must just have been one of the hardest experiences of your life.
It was horrendous. It was, sorry, Annie. It was traumatic in many, many ways. And I know that we have a lot of healing to get through, both Paris and I. But, and there was a time that I had lost all hope completely because of the way that things were not progressing, let's say.
And all the
it was
different
only
messages you
all the different, yes, because from one moment, the case was going to be dropped, and then it wasn't going to be dropped. I mean, there was so many, things were changing on a daily basis, and it just got to a point where I just couldn't listen or couldn't hear anything anymore, and all I could see was my life ahead, being, spending the 2 years in jail, getting a fine.
And that was what the sentence would have been?
Yes, and a fine of the £50,000, which I would not have been able to pay a full stop. And it was only when Radha Sterling from Detained in Dubai came to our help. I mean, I can't thank her enough. She's just been amazing. And I know that if it hadn't been for her, and I would have had to go to the next court hearing, and I would not be sitting here. I would not be sitting here. So, yes.
Take a break for just one moment. Let me go to Paris for a second. And I know this mustn't be easy as well to see your mum so upset, but there are reasons that you wanted to talk out about this, and I'm making sure that you get the space and time to do that. For you, you're without your mum for 33 days, a long time, having expected to be with her on a trip and then flying home on your own. I know, is it right that you wrote a letter to the Prime Minister of the United Arab Emirates?
I did.
Asking for your mum to be released? Tell us about that.
Well, the idea came around about a week before, maybe just a week and a half before my mum was released. And I thought at the time that it was a very far-fetched idea, but I guess once I started to understand the severity of her situation and that she could possibly be stuck in Dubai for a lot longer than she had already been, I started writing to him, and I sent the letter maybe a week ago now, But I'd like to hope that it did help bring her home, but I haven't heard a response.
Did you write, along the lines of, this is incredibly unjust, this is my mother, she's done nothing wrong? I mean, how did you put that together?
Well, I wrote that it is unjust, and I think that she should get her passport back. I did explain the reason why we were in Dubai in the first place. My father had just passed away. We only wanted to pay our respects. This post was from about 3 years prior to our trip, and that I really, really needed her to be home. I think for the both of us, it was incredibly important, and for our family too.
Something you said to me just before we came on air as well is that you were unaware of how much publicity this was getting back here in the UK, back home. When did you sort of start to understand that, Laleh?
I think probably maybe in the last, I think probably when I arrived at Heathrow, arrived back, and I walked through the airport doors. I was looking for Paris, and I saw her in the distance. She was standing there with my mother, and we both started. I mean, that was just such an amazing moment. It warms my heart every time I think about it. And then we started to run towards each other, and literally within a matter of seconds, we were surrounded by the press and flashing cameras and everyone talking. And it was in that, I think in those few minutes, that I thought, oh my goodness, this must have been huge. Back home.
It was. I mean,
huge, because I tried also not to, read what was in the press or in the media. My family and Radha, they were very, very sensitive to how I was feeling anyway, being in Dubai. Don't forget, I was there all on my own.
Yes.
So they were very, very kind in the way they protected me. So I was extremely surprised. And even now, as the days go by, and I try not to, go back and read what was written and what's been in the press, but from the snippets that I've seen, it's incredible. It's just Radha Sterling did an amazing job, because it's something that went international, and
well, I think people couldn't believe it.
Absolutely.
They couldn't believe that if you wrote... I mean, we live in a country where we have free speech and people insult each other all the time on social media. I'm not saying that's nice. I'm not saying it's good. But it's part of free speech. And I remember reading your story thinking, okay, she said that thing. She called her husband's new wife a horse.
Yes.
And now she's facing jail in Dubai.
Yes.
I sort of had to read it 3 times.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure you do regret writing that anyway, in some ways. But I'm not saying do you regret it because of what happened, because obviously what happened shouldn't have happened.
What I will say is that there were reasons behind what I did. There were reasons. There were very important reasons. It was, and I think I mentioned this earlier, not wanting to repeat myself. It was after an acrimonious divorce that I did not want. I was going through a lot of financial problems. I was depressed. I wasn't well. There was a lot surrounding that particular post, and it was something which was between myself and Pedro, private, that I thought, but I never ever imagined that, it would reach the heights that it did. And also another thing I think that's really, really important, because, we need to look ahead as well and think about what happened to me represents for everyone else.
Well, this is what I was going to ask, is so many people go on holiday to Dubai.
Yes.
Even if they don't have a family connection there. It's a very popular holiday destination, the United Arab Emirates as a whole.
Absolutely.
I mean, what would you say to people about going to that part of the world?
Social media users, I think they really need to understand that probably each and every one of them could be arrested in Dubai if they travel there for some post that they made either on Facebook or Twitter years ago. And the law is very hard. It needs to be looked at. And I think this is something that the UAE needs to change, and it's something that Radha Sterling from Detained in Dubai is working very hard towards. Also, then again, we have the British government as well, whereby they really need to make the changes that has been suggested to them by Radha Sterling.
Did you hear from anyone in the British government?
We went to the British Embassy twice, and they did absolutely nothing to help my situation. If anything, the last advice that they gave that I listened to was the one to go to the police station to make my statement, where we ended up for those 12 hours. And I wish to this day that I had not taken their advice to go to that police station that day. So far as helping and support, no. Besides handing me some pages of details of lawyers and a photocopy of my passport, that was it, really.
I take it you would never go to that part of the world again?
That's a very, very good question. You know, Paris and I went to Dubai, as we said earlier, to pay respects to Pedro. It was meant to be something peaceful, especially for Paris. It was very, very important even for her grieving process. And we were just not allowed that. And she didn't have the peace that we went there. She didn't have the peace that she was looking for. So we've talked about it, and we will probably go back.
You will?
Yes, because I have not been banned from returning.
But wouldn't you be terrified of something else?
Yes, but I've not done, what can they hold me back for?
But you would go because you want to see your father's grave, Paris?
Yeah.
I think that's fascinating in and of itself. It's nothing about whether you've done anything wrong. I suppose it's just having had that experience. I can only imagine how terrifying it was.
It was terrifying. It was traumatic in every sense of the word. But we went there for a reason, and I feel that we were robbed.
So you will go again?
It's very, very important for Paris, because even though we did go to the cemetery, it was clouded by fear, by sadness, by tears, it was everything that I did not want for Paris.
Have you booked another trip?
No, not yet. At the moment, Paris and I, we need to start our healing process. So,
well, we appreciate you talking to us very much today.
Thank you very
much.
Thank you very much for having us. Thank you.